SK가 올라갔을 때는 이 미드하고는 한번 붙어보고 싶다는 생각 혹시 선수 있어요?
페이커 선수랑 한번 붙어보고 싶어요. 모든 팀들도 똑같겠지만 썸머 우승하고 싶어요.
롤드컵 우승하고 싶습니다. 좀 더 나아지는 모습 많이 보여드리고 거고요. 그리고 그에 맞는 팀이 돼서 좀 더 발전하는 모습 많이 보여드리겠습니다.
관록이 있는 SK텔레콤 팀원인 만큼 슬럼프가 있을지라도 그걸 딛고 올라오는 장면을 보여줬습니다. 팬들은 당연히 그걸 기대하니까 계속 응원하시는 거고요.
지금 이 순위는 이 SKT에게 전혀 어울리지 않아요. 올라가야 됩니다.
Welcome back, guys, to another great day of LCK. We're here at SPO TV tonight. It's me, Valdez, with Papa Smithy, and we're going to have a fantastic matchup to start off the night. Griffin, undefeated currently in 2018. They're 20-0, but also in LCK, they're 4-0, up against a slumping SKT who's looking for their first victory.
But as is always the question when you sit there and want to watch your Terminator movies, is it Judgment Day or is it the original one today? And T2 is out, T1 is in, Faker is back, and Faker versus Chovy, the old versus the new, is a hype mid lane matchup for what should be a very intriguing series.
Yeah, I told you, Papa, the first time I saw Chovy, I was really, really impressed. His mechanics are off the chain. And he's super young, too. He did not look nervous in his first game that he played. Looked very much comfortable here in the LCK. And I'm just really hyped for him in general, but also, you know, the old god of Faker, as you mentioned, up against the, you can't call him a god just yet, but Chovy, the up-and-comer.
It's a really, really fun matchup, and I know you've also been out on Twitter talking about your bets involved here, and the big takeaway is, you know, you're obviously very confident about Griffin to win, and that's kind of surreal, right? We're many months now removed from last year's World Final. We're removed from SKT being crowned the second best team in the world, and yet you're coming in confidently predicting this team from Challenger is going to beat them today.
Yeah, they just really look super strong, and of course you can make the argument, right, they're only playing against the lower half of LCK so far, but at this moment in time, SKT is also looking like the lower half of LCK, maybe even the lower of the lower half. So it's not.
Where do you have them, Valdez? There's 10 teams here.
Probably around 8 is where I'd put them, just based off of, you know, the first week and a half that we've had. You know, they've only played 3 games. It's been Afrika, Genji, and MVP. They were at least able to take a game off of MVP, which was, you know,
but we have to specify,
decent, hopefully, you know, for them.
They is kind of nebulous because Faker, bang, they weren't there. They actually haven't picked up a single game victory against those big teams, but less about the talk, more about the action. We're going to get into it.
Yeah, let's introduce our team on the left side. It is Griffin, coming up from Challenger and making a big splash in the LCK, currently 4-0. You'll notice in the mid lane, they do have the sub, and the sub, the 17-year-old, will be playing tonight, starting even up against a slumping SKT. And you called them the slumping kings, Papa. It's definitely very fitting for SKT, but lots of hype right now around Griffin. You know, just all these players really playing to the top level. Hens and Viper not disappointing. Chovy coming in, and Sword and Tarzan also holding down the fort.
5 rookies starting. The fact that you mentioned Chovy starting, to me, that's the big takeaway, because Chovy has never started for this team. Rather, it's one of their big shot callers. So usually he's there for game 1, and Chovy, regardless of red or blue side, has been playing game 2. They're going with mechanics in game 1, saying, well, SKT do have a very talented mid laner who's excelling in solo queue. Let's have a mechanical player to be able to answer him. But this winning streak for Griffin is at 20. They are 20-0 in best of 3s since the start of Challenger's career, 2018. So since spring season started, they won 14 in a row, then 2 in the promotion tournament, and now 4-0 this season. It's a very impressive run.
It's very nice, but of course, people will argue they need to face some really strong teams, which way they will do, guys, very shortly. As they are going up against SK Telecom T1. They have 10 players that they can field, but tonight it is going to be the quote-unquote original roster with Newly Tall being, I would say, now a solid part of this five-man lineup.
The trending hashtag was not my SKT when they lost earlier this week to MVP. Well, whether you wanted it or not, you've got your SKT back. And what does that mean? We are about to find out. SK Telecom T1, like you mentioned, give Blank back his starting position. Tal is the only player retained from the team that did win a game but did eventually lose to MVP. What does it mean? One thing I want fans at home to remember that's kind of being lost in the shuffle is that this SKT roster has had 7 days down. We've got 6 days a week in terms of match. They had 5 days till their first match day. They played T2. They played Judgment Day. Now it's been 7 days since Faker and Bang were on the Rift for a professional game. That's a lot of time to come up with new stuff. They desperately need it today.
They really, really do. Griffin looking super strong right now. Let's take a look at some of the key points here. Griffin's unstoppable race. 14-0 in challengers, 2-0 in the promotions. Make it up to LCK, they're 4-0. That makes them 20-0 in 2018.
And there's caveats everywhere. 14 games in challenger against teams they were clearly better than. The promotion tournament they were better than. They haven't faced the top teams. But still, 20-0 is an immaculate run. They've lost, I believe, 5 or 6 single games in that run. If they go 21, they're blackjack for me. They are certainly going to be something fearsome. But that second half of the first round, Robin, is a murderer's row of teams. We thought SKT fit into that murderer's row. Today, if we find out if that's true or not, because after SKT, it's KT, it's Kingzone, it's Afrika, it's Genji, it's all the top teams.
It's the real challenge, right? And tonight, I would say that it's not the real challenge. I'm betting on blackjack tonight.
Oh, baby.
I'm betting on the 21 because this team, SK Telecom, there's no way out. Not sure exactly what that means. I think there is a way out for this team. They just haven't figured it out just yet.
Who and what is SK Telecom T1? It's a different thing to everyone. Is it the squad? Is it a certain lineup? Is it Faker and friends? Everyone has a different answer. They are the household names of Korean League of Legends history and World League of Legends history given their dominance. But the numbers overall are obviously awful. Deaths, kills, KDA, all of them. Every stat on that screen. Don't get lulled by any false insecurity. Those are all the worst numbers you could have.
Yep, the average deaths being first doesn't mean they have the lowest amount. It means they have the highest amount, and that is not a good thing. 13 deaths a game. Even when they won that one game against MVP, you know, it wasn't the cleanest thing ever, and they died a bunch. So, very high deaths, but let's take a look at Chovy in the mid lane here for Griffin. This guy, the first in KDA, right? He has played a lot already. He's played 6 games. He's only lost once on the Irelia, but he had an 8 KDA when he lost on the Irelia.
And he's definitely turning a lot of heads. The youngest player in the LCK from March 2001. So his birthday, his eligibility only halfway through spring season. His good looks have got him a lot of fans. His mechanics and outplays have got him a lot of fans. Already, bit of a K-pop star here. And you look at that KDA and you say, this guy is an impressive talent.
0.5 deaths a game. That's like BDD numbers when he came in, right? Everybody remembers BDD spamming Galio, being super safe, never dying on that OP Galio. Chovy's playing Zoe a lot and carries and carrying his way to an impressive KDA, which I find even more exciting. But let's take a look at our jungle matchup here, the highlighted matchup. I'm sure a lot of the fans out there are going to enjoy these numbers, Papa.
I mean, if he's doing 97 damage per minute, he does get to 612 pretty quickly.
Hey, you know, that's good, right? He makes it there in about 6.5 minutes, so...
that's a good sign, right?
Not bad, you know?
Why is Blank in a featured matchup?
I don't know. He controls vision, apparently. I don't think he's been controlling much of anything. I suppose he does have a decently high vision score compared to... Tarzan, but how does that compare to all the other junglers in LCK? We don't have those numbers on the screen, Papa.
And Tarzan had a macro masterclass in their win over Jinair earlier this week. They played immaculately, and he is a very smart player. He hasn't had the outplays that maybe his reputation had because it was Tarzan and Viper who were the names that people knew from this team in Challenger. But every time they're interviewed, they credit every good thought process or move or counter gank or proactive move to Viper. So clearly the intangibles are all the way over there for the side of Tarzan.
Yeah. Toby looking really happy, relaxed, ready to go. Right, he doesn't look nervous at all, which is always a good sign. Meanwhile, Faker, he's always as stoic as ever, not really changing whether he wins or loses. But guys, let's get into it right now. Pick and ban for game number 1. Let's see how it goes down.
Swain priority super high these days. It's our first bot lane, Swain, and that did very well for the side of Afrika against Kingzone yesterday in their only victory. Swain Alistair is my new favorite lane when it comes to CC and pulls and all sorts of things going on there. Gonna see a respect ban on the Nocturne from Blank, which is something that's a bit far away from what we expect from Blank. Only 2 games of Skarner this season, but should also update you because of the issues in the NALCS between Clutch Gaming and Echo Fox. Talia and Karthus are both available, but can't take Smite. So the Nunu Karthus strategy is gone. Talia's viability is still there, but when it comes to her value, she drops from being a ban to a situational pick because mid or support are her only available roles.
Yeah, definitely important to mention that. Thank you, NA, once again for giving that to us. Hovering in Azir, first pick. I don't know about this. Lulu definitely seems like the obvious choice coming in here, and that will be picked up real quick by Griffin here.
And this does, of course, start the same mind games we saw yesterday for Kingzone in Game 3, where neither the Taric nor the Master Yi is banned, and Lulu is the first pick, which says they may just take it first round, like Kingzone did on the first day of Week 2. SKT chose not to ban either of those. It seems away from where Tarzan's been playing, but there's certainly a lot of value there. As SKT, because of that reality, you're in this weird nebulous spot where you feel like you can't opt into champions that lose to Master Yi and Taric. I heard the Korean crowd go through a bit of a murmur as it is going to be a 3rd game in a row of Skarner.
Yeah, you know, I was surprised to see the 2 targeted bans against Blank. Great, the Nocturne makes sense. It's very strong right away, but hold the phone because we do have a lock-in.
It's time for mid lane, Kaisa!
There we go. It's happening, guys. Let's see it. Toby, the mechanical god, might be playing that. You know,
it could also be Viper in mid lane, and this guy is a fantastic Kaisa player.
Exactly.
Oh boy, the moment that Braum is taken in the same first round as a Lulu, you know that the shenanigans are beginning. SKT, I'll ring the vein for now as Yasuo looks very likely to be selected. Could be Faker's champion, of course. Faker's Yasuo in solo queue needs a no introduction. Everyone has been following that pick and becoming very excited for a 2nd Yasuo of the season for Faker.
And that's what everybody has been calling for. All the SKT fans say, no more Lulu, no more Taric, put him on a carry. And it looks like they may finally do it here up against Griffin.
And I do want to take a little bit of issue with the thoughts about, okay, get him off the top. That part you understand, but people kind of extend that to the Lulu, which of course is a dominant pick for them in 2016 and 2015 with Bang on the Lucian. You look at his champion pool, the Taric game, Lulu, Darius, Yasuo. Darius going bot lane for a bit, the Yasuo, which you're seeing for a 2nd time. They've tried Faker on every style of champion. None of those games were victories. You will default back to the carry, but right now, SKT, a lot of moving parts. Faker's champion, I don't think, has been the key reason they've been losing.
Yeah. Faker, no AD, no support to be real mid. Again, that definitely fits into what we have been saying here, Papa.
The Soraka ban provokes a Blitzcrank ban because one of the few ways that Soraka can be toned down in lane is to be engaged on by a Blitzcrank, and Wolf is a famous range support player. So that's why we do see the respect bans here. Now for the side of SKT, they need to find some lane presence. Will it be Bang on the Vladimir? Looking very, very possible. Could last pick Fatal if they wish to. They'll take the Morgana, so another range support, and also a support that does well against a pick champion with the Blitzcrank and Alistair banned away.
And it's going to be coming on in here. Still waiting. One thing I noticed, actually, is that the Irelia priority has fallen so much.
Viper's going mid.
Yeah, Viper is going to go mid. That's good to see. He will be on that Kaisa, but glad to see that Irelia priority has also fallen down here.
Irelia works very well against 80 carries, and certainly Kaisa is one of them. We'll see if Irelia might even be considered as a final pick for the side of SKT. Is usually it's either further utility or another tank. The Mundo for top lane to have another engage option. They can even just use the Lulu ult onto the Dr. Mundo. With the Morgana taken away, they have less incidental utility and shields than perhaps we saw earlier this week. That ended up being a Morgana-Lulu duo lane. They do have The Mundo, if Darius is selected, it is a winning matchup into the Mundo. The mid lane is going to be a farm lane, and the bot lane is going to be this hodgepodge Lulu Shen lane. If SKT can find pressure in multiple lanes and Blank's invade start to deny camps away, then things might get interesting. But Viper's going mid lane. Viper's on one of his first 80 carries of the season. He's been playing everything but 80 carry outside of one Lucian game. Let's see if the hype train can begin for his talent, because Chovy's, Swords, and Tarzans have been on full display.
This is going to be a fun one. I really do love the composition here from Griffin. I feel like they have a good read.
Valdez.
You know, I'm banking a lot on it right now, Papa. Hashtag no bias. But definitely, I feel like they have a good read on the meta and what is strong. And if this strategy is available for you, and you can grab all of these very high-tier champions, right? The Kai'Sa with so many different supports, the Lulu, the Mundo even, and then Shen in the second round. They sneak that one in for the extra map presence, but also just even the shield to make sure that that Kai'Sa stays alive for even longer. Definitely like their composition here.
And we'll go into the composition and how it works a little bit when we roll the game. We saw it from Hanwha Life Esports. It was Songyun running the Kai'Sa in the mid lane. It is stolen from the EU LCS, where the strategy was used by G2 and Fnatic. It's the evolved strategy, so not quite a Janna for Chovy, but the Lulu is certainly going to be just fine. And the bot side, it's not what you wanted. It's actually not going to be Chovy versus Faker. We will be denied that for game number 1.
Yeah, Chovy taking a little bit of a back seat, saying, okay, Hyung, older brother, Viper, you're pretty good at this, Kai'Sa. We have the opportunity. Let's have you do it. Lulu, obviously a very high skill support as well. You know, the wild grows, the timings on the polymorphs. So you've seen what high-level support players and now this season mid players can do on this Lulu.
And we've seen Griffin beat the bottom of the table. SKT may be there now, but they are the legends. Can they take them down?
That's the big question. Let's jump into game number 1 right now and find out. Okay.
Give him a second chance here,
Yeah,
Griffin.
Griffin kind of failed.
Well, you're definitely starting on a down here,
You know,
Brendan.
I don't have a lot of people that agree with me today, I suppose. Griffin's still a new team here in LCK, struggling to get their fan cheers right.
Maybe their cheerleader isn't here at the moment.
Yeah.
Could be possible, but yeah, a little bit embarrassing there for the first team to be introduced. If you guys are wondering how it works, the blue side team is introduced first most of the time. That
Which
would have
is
been Griffin,
Griffin,
but
yeah.
they botched it, and they got a second go because our Korean caster, who of course is on the crowd mic, gave them a second go, and that didn't go so well either.
I know. I love that they give him them a second chance, and then it's
You know what,
just like, nah, actually, no.
The worst thing is, this is a sold-out match, actually. This is an entirely full stadium. So, yep, maybe the fan group has some things to work on. Let's explain the strategy on the side of Griffin. This will be new to some people. As you can see, Tarzan, their usual jungler, is going to be on freezing the wave duty. That's what we saw Faker on when he was playing the Taric. Viper, their usual 80 carry, is playing mid lane. So eventually our observer will switch the Kai'Sa and the Lulu. Of course, you need a bit more information to confirm it, but that's what the strategy is and how it works. It's all about funneling the farm onto the Kai'Sa, and man, does Kai'Sa look broken when she's over-leveled. She has a high percentage of the team's gold. Even the team doesn't have a gold lead, it's all going to be centered on the Kai'Sa, because she's going to be farming mid. She's got the smite to pick up the Scuttle Crabs. And when Kai'Sa can cheat the curve, has her Rage Blade devour very early in the game, the utility of a Lulu, a Stan United, and Braum CC. If you can turn on at 20 minutes, you have immense Baron killing pressure, and as we saw earlier this week from Hanwha Life Esports, you get that Baron, you can just end the game in one push.
Yeah, I mean, it's also that, but they even pick up the Mundo too, who we've seen what can happen, right? He's not in a great lane for him up against the Darius, but you can farm with your cleaver, you won't get too far behind, and a Mundo that gets ahead when all of the focus is on this one Kai'Sa can also do a lot of damage and survive forever in the backline, can also tank turrets to take the pressure off of the Kai'Sa. It's just a fantastic pick, couple of picks I feel that they did get towards the end with the Shen Mundo. So I do like now that the funnel strats have kind of just been centered on mostly the real OPs, right? We're not talking Karthus, we're not talking Graves. Those two kind of failed in my mind. It's all about Kai'Sa and Master Yi. If you can't get one of those two, I'd say don't even really bother at this point.
And the final strategy has also evolved from, well, these two champions are good, doesn't really matter what else you pick, to let's get lane presence where we can. Should be noted that the Mundo won lane in the Kingzone game when they won Master Yi Taric, and the Lucian Lulu won lane the other time that we saw Kai'Sa. That was Hanwha Life Esports when they were running the bot lane, or at least were able to have the ability to push. So finding a pushing lane, finding a winning lane that isn't just your usual marksman and now playing the mid laner and going for the power farming is something you really want on the side of Griffin, and also to stop the enemy from just taking over your camps, because if you actually aren't able to cheat between mid lane and camps, if they're stolen away, then that gold just isn't funneled onto Viper like it needs to be.
Really excited to see if Viper can pull this off with the rest of his team. You know, we've seen big 80 carries jumping onto this pick and try to show off, but Viper has been one of the main reasons that people are hyped about Griffin, and this is definitely one game where they get to show that off. You know, he's going to have all of the other team members just funneling around him, right? Giving him everything and all of the help as well. So excited to see what can come of that.
Really hope that we get the swap from the Observer, from the Kai'Sa to the mid lane, because right now it's still a little bit hard to read, especially if you're joining late and you're new to some of these strategies. So full credit to Fnatic, who were the first to go for this Kai'Sa with Smite mid lane. First time didn't work. The second time, they were down 10,000 gold at 20 minutes and won the game at 23 minutes.
Yep.
Just with the Baron buff and its insane ability to push. That was with a little bit more utility. Again, Lulu can just be utility on her own, and she does have a second wild growth target. That's why you like the Mundo. You kind of need the shield, the Ardent Sensor, everything on the Kai'Sa to maximize the damage output there as well.
Look at this move towards a relatively early Drake. It is the Infernal Drake. They do want to deny that away from Viper if possible. They do start it, but Griffin immediately does rotate over and say, hey, we're willing to fight this early on. We're not scared to fight you. And so SKT decide to back off and not go for it. But look at this. Blank now.
Level 5.
Looking for an opportunity in the bot lane. He is
Walking
totally
up.
unseen. Look at Lehen so far down the lane. They're going for Toby, though. Are going to get the stun. The easiest first blood ever is going to be picked up. Nice gank in the bot lane here from Blank.
Really nice gank pathing from the side of SKT. One of the downsides of not having a true jungler is that when it comes to any sort of side lane pressure, when it even comes to side lane wards, you're kind of just left to fight for yourself if you're the top lane or the bot lane. You pointed out very succinctly, lane positioning from Lehen's was way down the lane. So very nice timing, nice little punish there. And the first Drake looks to go the way of SKT.
Yeah, should be easily picked up here. Doesn't matter that Chovy was able to just TP back. They just were not able to get there in time. So Infernal Drake picked up really early. Let's take another look at this replay.
And it might be the first pre-6 gank for Blank in a very long time, but it's well-timed, it's well-considered. They go for the correct target in the Lulu. This is, of course, what fans have been demanding for a long time, and Blank has unfortunately been a passenger in a lot of their games. But this time, able to get the right call, understand that there is going to be downsides to running this funnel strat. There will be much less jungle presence. You do not have a lot of backup whatsoever until you can start using that killer instinct, getting random triple kills. A nice timing, nice play, SKT.
Yeah. Good start for them. We'll see if the real SKT, I suppose, can actually squeak out a win against a team who is currently undefeated here in the LCK. Now, Griffin is undefeated in best of threes, but they have lost 2 games. One to Hanwha Life Esports and one to BBQ. Even, and you know, BBQ right now currently looking like the weakest team. So as much as we are hyping up Griffin, it's not like they're immaculate. You know, it's not like they're absolutely perfect in terms of games. We'll see if they can actually come from behind using the strategy today.
And again, we have multiple data counterpoints to show that the early game is not irrelevant, but it can certainly be turned based on Baron control around 20 minutes if Kai'Sa's hitting her farm numbers. And, well, 103 at 8 minutes is definitely good for the side of Viper in the mid lane. So it's very difficult to evaluate the strategy You know, you saw the moose on the loose officio on the analyst desk after they came from behind, just kind of at wit's end at seeing how many mistakes could be made, and yet Kai'Sa got the Baron, Kai'Sa won the game. So there is certainly a lot of viability in this strategy. There's been no changes, of course. We're still on patch 8.11.
Yeah. Faker so far on the Yasuo hasn't, been able to really show anything off. He'll definitely be one of the keys on to getting into that backline and actually assassinating Viper. They don't have the Black Shield that you were mentioning. They don't have the Morgana. Here comes Blank with the Predator. It is going to be pushed away. Braum really helping out there.
A lot of map control to SKT. Not sure if they were spotted. There was one defensive ward that Blank is now clearing. On the bot side, again, they haven't been able to deny camps from the Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa's getting basically everything she wants. Hasn't been able to take every camp in her side of the jungle, but of course going mid lane is pretty common.
They want to get tall here. He's going to have to flash this wall. A bit unfortunate, but does get caught out there. Now Darius doesn't have flash.
The first proactive move that you're able to make on the side of Griffin, but again, not something we really ascribe to these funnel strategies where it's all about getting levels and items onto someone. Blank still has ult, of course, will be spotted sitting in a control ward.
And there's another ward there, so they see that 4 members are bot. And Lehens and Viper, they're not going to get anywhere near this turret.
Killing champions would have been nice, but killing turrets is what you want to start pushing the minions into the funnel strategy, and it's so much easier to put wards on camps. So it's not going to be answered. There's no jungler to roam down. Nicely played by SKT. First turret falls just shy of 10 minutes.
Yeah, they get the Infernal and the first turret, so they're beginning to get their carries online as well. We mentioned the strategy of the Kai'Sa, the funnel strat on Griffin is kind of obvious, but then you look at SKT, they also have 3 carries and a lot of different, they have the Skarner for engage and also the Morgana to help out. But Yasuo, Vladimir, and Darius certainly can do a lot of damage in the later game as long as you can get them online.
Question is, can they close the gap on a Kai'Sa whose utility is going to be the only thing Griffin is focused on and actually make that happen? Darius's punishment of Mundo in lane is what he's usually picked for in team fights. There is the potential he will be outranged, polymorphed, etc. when trying to get in on Viper. So the laning phase hasn't been punishing for the Mundo. That's one thing to count against SKT, in spite of all their good play elsewhere. Yasuo also could be shut down. But because the Darius isn't completely set up for success in terms of being against, say, 5 bruisers that he can easily get multiple ultimates down on, we'll have to wait and see what it all means. What it means for Viper is that he keeps his CS up, and the Rage Blade is a huge one-item power spike pre-10 minutes for the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, this Kai'Sa already being online just a bit, going to be super scary in the next team fight that they go for here.
Interesting choice, though, to skip into the Devourer, I guess Blood Razor now as it's called, not going for the jungle item first. We've seen jungle item first from the previous pickups, just because then you clear the camps even faster. Kai'Sa doesn't need a lot of help to clear the single target camps especially, but just a style choice by Viper.
We got the 2v2 that did rotate up to the top side. Actually, SKT did start that, and Griffin did answer. Does mean that immediately going for the Rift Herald early. They're really trying to get this snowball going for SKT. We mentioned how this meta is really all about the snowball. If you can push it in early with an early turret and a Rift Herald, perhaps they can get far enough ahead in this game.
Definitely a losing the minimum game for Griffin, and every team when they're running the funnel has to draw different lines about what the minimum is. How early can you keep the turrets up? Do you fight for Drakes or Rift Heralds? Are questions that evolve. They want to take these turrets. That is the game. Pre-15 minutes, 3 turrets, what SKT is looking for. Usually the gold standard when it comes to actually punishing around the Rift, and this Rift Herald's definitely going to be able to get this top lane turret.
Yeah, easy peasy for SKT. That will eventually go down. Someone's going to have to deal with the Rift Herald as well, but you can already see SKT about 3,000 gold ahead here at 12.5 minutes.
And Griffin have made a pretty curious choice. They've gone into 3 QSSs at 12 minutes. QSS against Skarner needs no introduction, but going for 3 means utility items are going to be delayed and damage items on Viper are going to be delayed. I think if Tarzan and Lehens both went QSS and we saw the damage focus from Viper, that'd be fine. But if everyone's up, summoners are up, they have their wits around them, you shouldn't be getting Skarner ultimated as Viper. It shouldn't happen. So I think this is too much safety, and it also means a casual 3,900 gold of what is already a 3,000 gold disadvantage kind of puts them 6,000 gold plus in the hole.
Yeah, it definitely goes against that idea that you always like to talk about, where it's when you're behind, you can't really afford a QSS. You have to go for damage and just try to outplay all the CC on the other side. But Griffin, I suppose they're just so confident in this strategy that they're like, if we cannot get caught, you know, by a binding, by a Skarner, or anything like that, then we should absolutely win, and so they go for the QSS.
Teams have to play the Skarner attacks of buying a QSS, but there's always that duality, like I mentioned that you already referred to, of can I afford to build the QSS now, or do I need it later? I would say if the answer for Viper is no, Lahens, Tarzan, they taunt, they use their abilities, they don't really scale with items that well. For the person who's being funneled into, them being behind in terms of damage is a bit of a concern for the side of Griffin.
Yeah. You guys can see we've added a little bit to the gold advantage chart here. Just the first kill, the first blood was a big jump, and then the Infernal Drake is there as well. Doesn't show the first turret that I think was at about 9 minutes there, as you would see. And also the Ocean Drake was picked up for SKT. Next Drake is going to be another Infernal, definitely a big objective for both of these teams.
So for SKT, against the final strategy that we've now seen in 3 games, or at least I personally have been able to see in 3 games, it's mid lane turret, early as possible. We mentioned 15 minutes, probably going to be around there, assaulted at least. And then do not let there be any gaps in vision or a rotation made where Griffin can get a Baron 20 to 25 minutes. That is currently your focus if you're SKT.
We'll see if, you know, a struggling SKT can actually come in here and be super clean against this strategy, because already, before 15 minutes, 216 CS for the Kai'Sa. For Viper, nonetheless, one of the best 80 carries that we do have here. So I'm looking forward to the first fight to see if Viper and the rest of his team can actually pull this off against SKT, who are currently ahead.
Definitely a lot of hype around Viper, but it's very different to beating through Challenger, coming into the LCK, playing largely mages and bruisers, those sort of champions, and then everybody be like, all right, you're on a ranged 80 carry, you are the only important MVP. Everyone else is basically a ward of Viper in one way or the other. And that's a very different predicament against SKT, who still have the names that you respect. Wait and see what it all means, but this is definitely a lot onto the shoulders of the young man.
Yeah. So far, they've been doing a good job of keeping that mid lane turret up. SKT never really made a huge push for it. They don't have the forced engage, really, right? You're going to have the Darius, the Skarner, the Yasuo just running straight at you. They don't have the Aura until they, you know, clear it out and zone people out. And so I think it'll take a little bit longer for this turret to go down.
And that's kind of the counterpoint to my analysis on the QSS is it may be just Griffin saying, hey, we don't think you can actually siege down inner turrets because you don't have ranged champions, you don't have true engage. You have a pick comp. You want us to base check you at a Baron or at a Drake, and then the Skarner ultimate. If that is abated, if there is 3 QSSs, you can't increase the pace of the game. It's not an unbelievable idea, but it's an interesting one. Sword, oh, it's very early.
Oh, Sword might be in trouble here. He knows he's got a Skarner on his back. He flashes away, and a stopwatch, actually, to try to get away from the ultimate, but it comes in. Eventually here, actually not used yet, and here comes the Hens, and Tarzan running over the wall. They're looking to turn this around. Tall, not able to dunk onto Lahens, and he will stay alive for now. He is burning down, though.
Where's
Here
Kai'Sa?
comes Wolf coming on in. Where's the Kai'Sa? That's the real question. Down he will go. Here's the Kai'Sa trying to get in, but already the rest of his team is going down. The exhaust coming in onto Viper, too. Still looking to turn this around, but the tornado hits into the binding, but that QSS just barely is gonna save his life, and he does get away.
Captain Jack QSS means he doesn't go down, but that wasn't how you play this comp usually. They got the first kill, but Viper needs to be rotating earlier to give them a fighting chance. Otherwise, kills go the way of SKT. The timer ticks on, and SKT's gold lead is looking very healthy.
It was crazy to see how fast that fight just turned into so much more. It started as a 2v1, and then all of a sudden, You saw Tarzan, or rather Lahen's, stand united-ing in, and Tarzan jumping over the wall, and then the rest of SKT show up. But as you mentioned, Papa, the most important thing, no Kai'Sa, but it still looked decent for Griffin, even without the Kai'Sa. In the future, we'll have to see how these fights actually look.
Briefcase in arm golden. That was a nice pose there, so I give that one 8 out of 10. It goes on, and when you get the first kill on the way of Griffin, you're baited into thinking, okay. But the problem is that Griffin really are not the sum of their parts. They are the sum of Kai'Sa and her utility. By the time Kai'Sa joins, she rolls in and then tries to make something happen. Hemo Plague. There's also Faker holding onto the win wall to stop the Q from being relevant, so they can't get damage out of her. No one else on the lineup can pressure important cooldowns like Exhaust or the win wall, and no one on Griffin really wants to use important cooldowns, so the Kai'Sa is there. So it's very clear what this game is about for both sides. It's about the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, you mentioned summoners. I think that's really important. Viper still has his flash. He's going to have QSS for the next fight. Lahen's still with Exhaust to help anyone who wants to try to assassinate the Viper. I think this would be a pretty decent time for Griffin to go for a fight.
And SKT want to keep making plays where Viper isn't early in the game, because by the time Viper showed up, one thing to remember is almost all the damage from the Kai'Sa is gated on actually getting 6 autos in first. Never really got the Rage Blade stacked up and never got the big damage. That's some big damage.
Okay, that's going to be the Infernal going down. SKT thinking about taking a fight here. Decide in the end that they do not want to. May use this opportunity to go for the mid lane turret. Here comes Blank. They're going to try to pull in the Mundo and burst him down, but the Wild Growth is already there. He's still alive in the background, and look at Viper, still just so protected in the back. We are going to have our first man go down, though. Viper trying to go 1v4. Doesn't look like it'll work down, though. He is burning from the Darius. Looking to get away, and he will go down to the Darius in the end. The rest of SKT is pushing on in. They are going to knock up the Mundo, but he stays alive somehow. Just Mundo things. But in the end, another good fight for SKT.
Mundo comically tanky, but it doesn't matter, Valdez. They're not able to get value out of the Kai'Sa. Viper may have been safe, but this comp isn't about the Kai'Sa being safe. It's about the Kai'Sa getting down and dirty with utility. By the time Kai'Sa joined, it was actually just Darius with 1 auto and ultimate because he got the reset on the ability, and that meant it was too easy for them to DPS her out. 20-minute Baron's usually what the Kai'Sa comp's looking for. This time it's SKT trying to take it under their nose.
Well, Sword did have his teleport up, and they had vision with that blue trinket. So they do spot them, and SKT, they're not going to bite off more than they can chew just yet, and that means no Baron here at 20 minutes.
First time we're seeing the Kai'Sa team actually drop the usual itemization of going Devourer, or Bloodraiser as I should say, remembering the old name. But we'll talk a bit more about the itemization afterwards. While it looks good when Viper is free, consider that Viper is doing almost no DPS at the start. Only gets 6 stacks of Rage Blade when most of the rest of her team is in disarray. Tries to hard commit, but then you see the Darius, 1 auto dunk, and that's 1,000+ health gone. No way for Viper to get value out. Not a well-constructed fight on the side of Griffin.
Yeah, he got hit by the Hemo Plague, and I think he panicked a little bit, you know? I think he may have been able to commit just a bit further, but he was also scared about the hard engage from the Darius. He was just like, well, if I get close with Hemo Plague and get hit by Darius, I'm dead. Ended up being true anyway, as he committed pretty late.
And the damage graph is an indictment of that. You baited into seeing, okay, 27-31, that's the second most damage. That's really all there is on the side of Griffin. There's 3 members doing similar damage on the side of SKT. And that's the problem. They need to get the most. Speaking of the most, Faker finds a couple of foes.
Yeah, he doesn't have flash here. Nicely done, though, using the other members of Griffin to just get over the wall. A nice mechanical play to survive by Faker.
That's Faker's Yasuo, says the people out there who've watched it in solo queue. Nice little outplay to get away. And now SKT find themselves in a 5,000 gold. It's creeping up about 1,000 every couple of minutes. We mentioned that the Kai'Sa hasn't gone for the Devourer, so actually her threat onto a neutral is lower because she doesn't have all the passes that the jungle items bring. Probably going to be the AP Kai'Sa in this game. That's what usually we expect when we see the Nationals Tooth come out. Can still be very powerful, can allow them to take down tanks. Certainly pokes very strong, does the Kai'Sa. What does it all mean? How does it all come together? Ardent Sensor is online, Mundo is tanky, but if this teamfight execution fails one more time, I think Griffin might start to fall a little bit too far behind.
Yeah, it's definitely a scary moment in this game for this team. They're kind of on a knife's edge here where they know they have, you know, the Fnatic meme dream of down 10,000 gold, we win a team fight, take Baron and win. They have that opportunity, but again, it's up against SKT here. Trying to get that damage done onto Bang already, but the win wall is so crucial here up against the Kai'Sa.
And as the Kai'Sa player, you really need to think about cooldowns. Wind wall is the one to stop your damage, so yeah, okay.
Oh, here we go.
Ultimate, the damage to Baron, we mentioned the Baron speed already. It is warded, SKT are here. They can't allow this one to be taken. It's down to 6,000 already. What's Bank gonna do?
Faker doing the red
SKT
buff
are being
right now.
really slow on this.
Yeah, really slow. It's going to go down, and there it is. The smite just given away entirely to Griffin, and that's going to be the end of Blank 2, and Bang! Running on in. A nice engage, though. The Hemo Plague. Darius trying to do the
Viper's
damage,
down.
but it's not enough here. Trying to get onto Mundo now. Looking to go 1v3, but Faker with the red buff and the Darius will be able to take him out in the end. Looks like it will be a 2-for-2, but the Baron does go over to Griffin.
Baron is removed as an objective. SKT was certainly in first argument to pick it up. So it's stolen under their nose. That's a mistake from SKT. The Baron speed of Griffin can't be denied, but they clean up the fight. Darius is able to do so much work because Viper can't kite him, and now they're going to lose some turrets here. Will Griffin, the gold lead is still pretty significant to SKT.
They did chop it down just a little bit, did Griffin. They were down 6K, now they're just down about 4K with that Baron, so it's not half bad for them.
We've seen this comp 3 times, and the first Baron won them the game. The first Baron will not win the game for Griffin. In fact, overall, it is a win to the side of SKT. The win wall's in great position. Viper apprehended, and once again, in basically melee range of a Darius. Darius does what Darius does oh so well. Tal farmed up, able to still have threat onto Sword. Sword goes down. I want to remark and remind the viewers that a lot of people came in expecting Griffin to win. And predicting Griffin, I think, was the scientific approach. We haven't seen something from SKT yet. But in a season with all those match days, this lineup from SKT did have 7 days. Crazy when we have 6 match days a week, but 7 days to put something together, to pick up the pieces. And so far, they look a lot more squared and a lot more communicative than they did 7 days ago.
Yeah, they certainly do. I do like the composition, too. They didn't get absolutely destroyed in the draft either, right? The Darius Vlad is also working out for them. Faker looking good on the Yasuo. Griffin, though, now with the Baron, looking to push in and get more gold to their side. Faker looking for an engage. Not going to happen. We got another Infernal Drake, the third of the game. Griffin looking to take it out here.
1-to-1. They kill these really fast in SKT. And too long around Baron. They may be doing it again.
Oh, the slow there onto Blank was fantastic, but Sword is going to get engaged. A big upper hand. And look at this. Viper in the background. He does get the knockup.
He's down.
And down goes Faker. Faker going to get the kill, rather, onto Viper. And that's going to do it for that team fight. A double kill for Faker's Yasuo. And they're finding a way to engage and kill this Griffin comp.
Maybe we're seeing why SKT didn't play their players earlier this week with 7 days to actually scrim and come together. Their communication is cleaner. They're actually being decisive when they need to. They may not have got the smites, but they're getting the team fights. The wombo from SKT was wonderful.
That it was. Not the best engager positioning there from Griffin either. Kind of got themselves caught. And, well, you give Faker's Yasuo and Tal's Darius, apparently, in these fights has been looking really good. You give them a chance, you're not going to win that fight. I don't care how fed your Kai'Sa is.
This game, to a lot of SKT fans, and maybe even to the team, felt like a grand final because they had those 7 days to prepare, because they had played the B squad earlier this week. This was the final acid test they had. How'd they look in their first game? Not great. Second game, not great. Okay, let's not actually play this roster for 7 days and see how it comes together. If not today, maybe SKT just rolls on with consecutive losses. Today needed to be the stand. And this team fight where Faker flashes in with the third part of his Steel Tempest and gets the assassination onto the Kai'Sa. That's the Yasuo we've heard of. That's the execution from the team they needed. And in with their backs so close to the wall on a day where they needed to perform, this has been a great game 1 from SKT.
Faker's Yasuo currently 4-0-3, and that engaged really sealed the deal. It made it not even close. Look at the difference in damage in this one. Faker up on top, finally making his way back into the LCK. I'm sure all the SKT fans super happy at this moment in time. The game isn't over yet, but I mean, Faker's looking so clean today.
And the Skarner and Morgana, specifically the Morgana being denied away in terms of another utility, the CC reduction ability, and also the Skarner having threat onto Viper and forcing the QSS. Feels like Griffin played too safe against the QSS, and now in team fights, it's getting foxed by the two solo lanes. Tal and Faker having a day out, a picnic almost, whenever it comes to the team fights. And now we're getting to huge gold leads. Now Faker's Yasuo is intensely fed. But 27 minutes into the game, this is the SKT people demanded, and this SKT's close to a Game 1 victory.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Griffin comp, you see Kaiser now with 400 CS, but doesn't really seem to matter. SKT, especially led there by Faker and even Tal, looking pretty good. But the TP is coming in. They're trying to attack from behind. The
Now or never.
is going to miss. They get the knock up here onto Blank. The Viper, they can't quite commit just yet. Just poking a little bit. Does get the slow, and there's the flash cut. But the upperhand and the knock up there might be enough. Does look like Viper does get away, and Sword is going to continue living here for just a moment in time. And there it is, finally.
That's
the
one.
Kai'Sa is showing up. They do get the Yasuo. That's the big one. And the rest of SKT, they're just on the run. Looking for the engage once again. Can they actually get away from this? It's going to be 3 members easily going down. The base, though, in tatters. They do have to go back home.
Those are the team fights they're looking for 10 minutes ago. Is it too late? They do get the kills, but it's at the cost of both of their inhibitors. They will not find a big objective from this. The Baron spawns in 1 minute. They'll be able to push out the waves. They don't lose, which would have been the cost if they failed the execution. I think maybe Viper should consider holding on to the Killer Instinct for cleanup. But of course, when there's been no team fights to clean up, you understand why it was used early.
Just see how this engage happens. Faker towards the front. They get the slow actually onto Bang. But
The 3-man apprehend is massive. Viper gets
the
out of the
Wild Growth
fight.
too is so good.
And
Really
then-
nicely
But
timed.
Viper's still kiting, and through all of that, use the shield largely to disregard damage rather than for mobility. No value out of Killer Instinct when it comes to the cleanup, we can see, is costly. They get some kills, they don't lose the game, but is it too little, too late for Griffin? We're soon to find out.
That's the real question. You catch Faker once, you bait him in with the Mundo that doesn't seem to ever die, and he does go down once. But now he's got Guardian Angel. We'll have to wait and see.
And now we get the damage graph that Griffin drafted for. This is what it is supposed to look like. All of the damage on the Kai'Sa, 60% of team damage. It's kind of a minimum for a Kai'Sa after the laning phase is over. They hadn't found that before. You see where the comp should work, but does it matter? Does SKT still have a gold lead and still have first position over Baron? Maybe Baron from SKT just ends this game. They're certainly going to be the first one to make some sort of play around it.
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting here, Griffin, with 2 inhibitors down. Spotu, nice timers there on the left side. That will help out with that. The lanes are pushed out now, and Griffin are certainly thinking about this Baron. Now they're going to start it. They do have the double Infernal. Can we get the engage is the question. Griffin looking like they want to pull off the apprehend onto the Braum, but a knockup is not going to come in, blocked by the wind wall. The taunt's not going to hit there onto Lahez, but bang! He gets stunned up! A big mistake. That's going to be the end of the Vladimir. The Himmel Plague is not going to get value. The rest of Griffin, though, a little bit low, but Viper on full health. They're going to have to give away that Baron 5v4. Now it's going to be up to Griffin to disengage and get back home and defend because all the lanes are pushing.
Such a tense game. Sword is trying to actually just distract them while other people get recalls. And try and get out.
Nope.
Oh, he aggroes the Krugs. Sunfire Cape aggroes the Krugs. And he will surely slowly die here. Awkward that your itemization doesn't allow that to happen.
Looks like his ultimate was already used in the last one. Just delaying this.
This is smart from
wow,
SKT. This is
okay.
almost Overwatch strategies, but delaying the respawn timer means when it comes to fighting for things, he will not be alive. They want the Mundo to die as slow as possible so that the disconnect with the long death timer is at its maximum.
55 seconds. We're here 31 minutes into the game. That's a strategy I haven't seen used in League of Legends,
I
so
saw
it's
it
a
used
cool one.
once ever. Helps that I did some casting of that other particular game so I could understand it.
Yeah.
Watching the replay here of the team fight, Bang is looking for it, but then you got that Kai'Sa missing health damage scaling with AP and take him down.
He
So
gets Braum stunned too. You know, he just wasn't able to get into his pool in time because the attack speed and the Q coming out just gets enough attacks off that he was not able to get out of there.
now SKT roll down. Remember, Mundo is still dead for 20 seconds. They got their minion waves in order before they killed the Dr. Mundo. They're going to take this mid lane inhibitor. How much is enough for SKT? They're not going to try and end just yet.
The double banner in the mid lane is really important. It gives them time to come over to this bottom inhibitor and take it out. Again, no Nexus turrets do go down, but that's 3 inhibitors down. The top one is about to respawn here in 35 seconds. Fortunately for SKT, they do have a lot of map control, but all they can really take right now is another Ocean Drake.
Because SKT can't answer the one question that I think we're all wondering. If 5 people run at each other, who wins? I think execution will be important. Faker and Tal didn't use their flash in the last fight. A flash apprehend into a last breath could just be a team fight ender. And earlier in the game, that kind of variable didn't matter because there was a gold lead, because it was long lanes, there was terrain that didn't favor. Doesn't matter how much engage you have, when the enemy team has to run at a Nexus, you will get the 5v5. Because SKT can't know, because we saw the last couple of team fights go the way of Griffin, now is where the creeping doubt starts for both squads. The gold lead of 4,000 at 33 minutes means very little.
Yeah, that extra Infernal that Griffin was able to pick up, certainly helping out with just pumping out the damage here for Viper in particular. And SKT, they're just looking to pummel down mid. You know, the inhibitor's down, they have double super creeps here. And a banner should be coming offline really soon, or double banner, so they'll be looking to force it here in the mid lane to rotate over to the top side. Let's see if they can get this inhibitor down. It's looking likely at this point.
All right, speaking of down, we do see that Black Shield be on cooldown for a little bit, used on Faker.
Okay, they get the stun here onto Faker, and he nearly goes down. Super low, and down will go Tall.
Viper's free hitting!
Viper in the back line is looking to do it. Now Tall is going to go down, and it doesn't look like they can do it. Faker's going to get taunted up on the right side, too, and that's going to be the end of that team fight as Griffin able to clean up, but their base still in tatters.
They will not be able to end the game on this play, you'd imagine, but 50-second death timers are starting to get scary. They're going to have to push out a minion wave, seeing the value of this Kai'Sa. We thought maybe it would never get there. It certainly took longer, but at 33 minutes, it seems like SKT have no way to show threat any longer with all these items completed. Viper pushes up. They're going to try and ride the top lane minion wave and just kill some Raptors because why not?
Yeah.
On the way, it doesn't slow her down. Stealing away, denying some resources, taking an inner turret, but they won't crack an inhibitor from that big team fight victory, and that means still life for SKT.
Yeah, as you mentioned it before, it's not really about the gold lead.
Nope.
It's just about what objectives you can get, the inhibitors, the map control, and the next Baron. That's going to be coming up eventually here. Still got a bit of time until that one does spawn, but might be the deciding factor as we do get along here. Down will go that upper turret. Once again, we will have to go back to square one and wait until the next team fight.
So if I could listen in on comms, well, the one thing I'd really like to know, I mean, I'd have trouble with the Korean as a side one, but the one thing I'd like to know is, why didn't they kill the Ocean Drake? They barreled down mid lane instead. Delaying the Ocean Drake might delay the Elder and force a fight not to happen. I mentioned that the Black Shield was on cooldown. That was why they went on to Faker. They didn't care about Windwall or his GA. They knew that if he couldn't do damage, if he couldn't threaten onto the Kai'Sa, then this could be a one-team fight for Griffin, and they get no value out of everything on Faker because they just engage on him at the right time. So beautiful move from Lehens allows the cleanup for the side of Griffin.
Yeah, it's Lehens and also Viper getting into the back line right. He goes in at the exact right time. He's got Wild Growth on him. He has the Lulu shield. He still has a GA and Zhonya's for the next fight, whereas Faker's GA is now gone. Let's see if they get baited in here. Looking for it.
Oh, it's a deep breath every time. A bit of a clench when you see the Void Seeker coming out from Viper. He hasn't used Flash in the last 3 or 4 fights either. Valdez is holding on to that. The poke from this AP Kai'Sa's big. He's going in!
Oh boy! The Wolf is going to go down, or nearly here. He is going to Zhonya's, but look at him on the left side. Can he do that free damage? The Wild Growth comes on and bang, getting super low. The flash on in. Faker trying to do the damage, but they will get entirely cleaned up. Tall on the chase for Chovy, but that's not your target. You still got Viper alive with everything available, and it looks like finally the tails, the sides have turned here for Griffin. They're able to win the fight super easily once again.
Just in the late game, there's no threat onto the Kai'Sa. The Darius can no longer get the resets and just plop her for 1,000 damage out of nowhere. And even 1,000 damage might not be enough because of the shield values onto Viper. Never under threat. Had to use the flash that time. They're going to get an inhibitor on this push, you'd have to imagine. But I don't think Griffin win the game off this play. Coming off on the replay, and Viper just says, screw it, I'm doing it myself. I have to gap because I have to initiate. He's able to get into the back line, and if you look at his health bar, it never gets critical. He's on 1,500 health or more the entire time on the back end. No longer can Darius and the rest lumber at Kai'Sa and kill her, and that is the problem. Very nice CC onto Faker. Stops the only true threat in the late game on the Kai'Sa, short in its tracks.
Yeah, I was nearly losing my mind towards the end of that fight because Faker got the knock up onto Viper, and I'm like,
Then got stunned.
We saw that is what the key is, really, to killing this Viper. You gotta knock him up, do this Yasuo damage, crit him down from 100%.
You want to see some numbers? Here's some numbers.
That's a number, nearly 10,000 in one fight.
Nearly more
One
than the
fight,
entirety of the enemy team, and more, of course, by many multitudes.
Oh,
on
looking
his
for it
side.
again. Here comes Viper. Windwall is going to be
big.
It's going to be down here, and now here's Mundo. They get the slow on a Faker. He is going to be able to get away with that black shield, but Wolf here with
no
his Zonias. Okay, they have the knock up here though, and that's the taunt. Down goes Wolf. Blank on the run here, and the cleaver's coming in, the apprehend, and he does get a big knock up, but it's not enough. Viper's still in the back line doing that damage. Tall getting low here is going to be able to knock him down, but it's not enough. Viper's still free hitting, and that should be it. The rest of SKT looking to go down here. Bang will not survive, and that will be your ace as Griffin clean up.
On this day, SKT will remember they almost killed the Kai'Sa. They almost answered the EU funnel strat. It was so close, but it was not enough. They're waiting for the minion wave. This game should end on this push.
Yeah, looks like it will. They're not going to have to go for the Baron here. And SKT fans who were just on the edge of your seat, they were so close. 3 inhibitors down at one point. It looked like they had the answer. Finally, Faker's on a carry on the Yasuo. It does not matter. The Viper on the Kai'Sa will reign supreme here, as Griffin will be able to secure game number 1 up against SKT.
It'll be a relieving win for them, but for SKT fans, they won't really know how to feel. So many of the things they asked from their team were answered here. Bring back Faker, bring back the A-team, they did. Blank, for the love of God, do something in the early game. He did, he was excellent in terms of his gank pass and what they were able to make happen. And yet, because of the nature of the Kai'Sa strategy, allowing them a bit more free reign, there was no jungler really on the side of Griffin. It reached a tipping point, and one Baron went the way of Griffin. It delayed the game, The second Baron may have been the death knell. Really exciting game. Griffin trying something new, going for this mid lane funnel with Viper in the mid lane. They get over the line, but only just. And for SKT fans, their team looks better, but still not good enough.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a step in the right direction, right? SKT, they're going up against a really strong team. We don't know exactly how strong Griffin is until they face everyone, but we know that they are a really strong team. So you can't feel too bad when they get this close to defeating Griffin.
Man, MVP is the ward there. They have the ward onto all 5 members. The teleport comes in, and SKT says, wow, we're actually exposed here. There's no way for us to fully kite from this. They can have Faker get out. They can have the golden Morgana, but there's always going to be exit kills. There's always going to be value. They can never do damage to Viper, even in a scenario like this where the apprehend into last breath was an entire team. The entire team, spoilers, it's the Kai'Sa at this point in the game.
He just Zonias.
Yep.
He's totally fine. There's the one big combo, and he's like, nope, I didn't get hit by any of it. The rest of my really tanky members got hit, but not me. And then he comes out of it and does all the damage he needs to.
Shield's not hit on patch 8.11 either. That's an 8.12 change. That's a next week thing. Griffin get over the line, but will we have any roster changes on either side?
That's the big question. Guys, we are going to go to about a 12-minute break before we get to game number 2 of Griffin versus SKT.
올려야지. 빨리 동생걸 촬영했어. 감독님의 일단.
자 이거 컨셉이 그리핀을 소개하는 컨셉으로 가기로 했어. 자기 포지션과 이름 그리고 취미 뭐 특기 뭐 이런 걸 적당한 소개를 꺼내고 그 사람에 대해서 시청자들이 궁금할 만한 것들을 물어봐주는 거야.
그냥 일상생활 하다가 갱킹하는 게 훨씬 나을 것 같아요.
그게 나을 것 같아.
대호 형을 한번 시험을 해보자. 어차피 이게 시범연산이니까.
오케이, 준민할게요, 대우형으로. 파란 옷 입으신 잘생긴 남자분, 팀에서 맡은 포지션과 이름 좀 소개시켜주세요.
저는 그리핀의 플레잉 코치
와,
를 맡고 있는 김재구라고 합니다.
와, 박수.
이거 너무 부담스러워.
자, 안녕하세요.
그리핀의 대빵 미드 신영석입니다.
와우. 자신이 LCK에서 몇 등 정도 하는 미드라이너다.
11등이요.
11등?
예.
10팀밖에 없는데?
항상 제가 가장 모자라다는 마음가짐으로.
레더 선수가 생각하는 타잔 선수의 평소의 모습은?
타잔 선수 하면 역시 청소반장입니다. 빨리 안 넣으면은 자고 있으면 와서 깨우고 귀찮게 하죠.
똑똑. 안녕하세요.
이거 지금 이렇게 하면 안 되지. 너무
왜?
어색하잖아.
야, 다시.
그리핀 정글을 맡고 있는 타잔이라고 합니다.
LCK 썸머를 다한 이만한 각오에 대해서 한번.
열심히 잘해야죠. 최대한 노력하고.
여기까지.
네.
오케이.
스파이퍼 씨, 네, LCK 올라가니까 기분이 어떻습니까?
LCK 솔직히 매번 올라갈 거야.
그리핀 내가 얘보다는 잘생겼다 하는 선수를 뽑자면 누가 있을까요?
에바지. 건방져. 인정합니다. 일단 키부터 앞서갈게요. 에바지.
네, 여기까지.
안녕하세요. 리인입니다. 그리핀의 서포트 담당하고 있습니다.
일주일에 한 번도 씻지 않는다는 게 사실인가요?
저는 항상 연습을 늦게까지 하기 때문에
모함인가요?
네, 당연히 모함이라고 생각하고
그 리엔즈 선수 주무시는 방에서 그 금붕어 밥 냄새 같은 게 난다고.
그거는 이제 저희 방에 수건을 항상 걸어놓기 때문에 습기가 차서 그런 거 아닐까.
리엔즈 선수 자리에서만 난다고 하더라고요.
그것도 제 방에 수건.
네, 여기까지 하겠습니다.
정말 화가 나네요.
지금 딱이야. 지금
불착
뭘 뱃살은.
똑똑. 안녕하세요. 반갑습니다.
네, 반갑습니다. 그리핀의 탑소를 맡고 있는 소드라고입니다.
목에 있는 거 뭐죠 이게?
이게 제 트레이드 마크인데 이거 설명하려면 역사가 좀 길지. 목에 탯줄 감겨서 생긴 자국이라서 자국이 살을 빼도 보이긴 보이는데 일단 살 빼고 말해야겠지. 그냥.
오케이.
그리핀 미드 서브를 맡고 있는 초비 선수입니다.
이번에 LCK 한 번도 승리하지 않고 승격하신 소감이 어떻습니까?
이게 바로 무패 우승이라는 걸 느꼈습니다.
네, 저희는 지금 자세 교정을 위해 요가원으로 출발하는 중입니다. 뭐야, 벌써 시작이야?
아니 그냥 화면 어떻게 나오는지 보는 건데.
가슴을 펴서 뒤로 빠져야죠. 오른무릎을 펴보세요. 그 다음에 엉덩이를 끌어 올려가야 돼요. 무릎 접어 앉으세요.
요가원을 끝나고 가는 그리핀 가족들.
자세가 많이 뻣뻣하더라고. 이제 차차 하면서 더 할수록 더 좋아져요.
오케이.
나이가 들어가지고 몸이 찌뿌둥하고 힘드네요.
오늘 요가 하신 기분 어떠십니까?
선수로 할 수 있을 것 같아요. 누가 판단하면은 놀이 잘해줄 것 같은 선수거든요. 선수 자리 기억할 수도 있어.
지금 제 자리를 위협하시는 건가요?
그건 지금도 가능합니다. 그건 지금도 가능한 게